Well, now that I've finally sobered up from Christmas, I suppose it's time to reflect on the year that was 2017. Three billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri, Darkest Hour and The Shape of Water were featured heavily at the various awards ceremonies this year. That's all well and good, they're certainly deserving of it. My personal favourite was Darkest Hour, however none of them will be receiving an award from me. They were released the wrong side of 2017 in the UK for my podium, which is a shame because it would have been interesting to throw them in the mix, but for now they'll have to wait until next time. I'm not going to keep you for very long because there are already way too many award ceremonies that are more drawn out than a jailhouse prostate exam, so ready that fucking jet ski, Kimmel. John Wick Chapter 2 is fucking awesome because it does exactly what a sequel should. Take what made its predecessor successful and put it on fucking steroids. The pacing is savage, the action relentless, the car chase surprisingly realistic all things considered, the gun control non-existent, and the body count makes this collection of people look like complete pussies. The only real problem is that despite being better than the first installment, it doesn't feel like it is. The reason being is that the first one had the element of surprise. Cast and crew alike kept the film's existence very quiet, and when release date arrived it hit the screen like a fucking hammer blow to a cunt, and it was fucking glorious. Unfortunately, the sequel lacked this type of impact. There was a build up to the premiere. Reeves himself was a lot more vocal about the project, and there were trailers as well as features spread across the internet. This of course took the unexpectedness out of the movie, as you had some sort of idea as to what you were about to witness. But don't let that put you off, this is comfortably the best movie of its genre at time of writing. Keanu Reeves' performance was exceptional. The level of physicality required to fulfill and improve upon the role must have been intimidating, but Reeves delivers perfectly. Each fight scene is choreographed magnificently, and the variety of combat and martial arts ensures that it avoids repetition and maintains an energy level that even some first-person shooters would struggle to rival. John Wick 2 starts aggressive and rarely slows down from there. The dialogue was kept to a minimum, but when it was featured it included a tasteful increase in humour. Also, seeing Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne share a screen together for the first time since concluding the Matrix trilogy was so fucking cool that if I did take notes they would have quickly started to moonlight as jizz rags. Dunkirk is easily the most efficiently assembled movie of 2017. All the editing, sound mixing, cinematography and music are all superb. All of that combined with the decent acting, action and rich history behind this story makes it near impossible not to get immersed in the screen. The grim atmosphere it creates is captivating. As you watch you can feel the urgency of the whole situation pouring all over you. Even during the non-action scenes you can still hear the war approaching in the background. Faintly at first, but as the movie progresses so does the volume of the terror en route to ruin your sandcastle. There are issues. The aforementioned immersion is diluted by the cleanliness of the combat. There's a surprising lack of blood and maimed body parts, which I imagine in reality the beach would be littered by such a mess that it would strike fear into the heart of any cleaning device. This was rated as a 12A in my country, and films with the same rating, Wonder Woman, both Avenger films, The Dark Knight and Jurassic World for example, pushed that rating much further than Dunkirk, and I don't know why, because it's a telling of an event that happened during World War II which wasn't exactly known as a gore-free occasion. The story is told through three different perspectives, land, sea and air. Which is fine, I enjoy variety, just ask my liver. The problem however is that they don't share the same timescale. We are on the beach of Dunkirk for about a week. The drama taking place on the sea is over the course of a day, and we're in the air for about an hour. Compressing and stretching said timescales over 106 minutes with them barely syncing up until the last act or so can get a little confusing. I respect the technique that Christopher Nolan used to execute this, but considering Dunkirk is very dialogue light, it could have been explained more efficiently instead of using blink and you'll miss them title cards at the beginning. Obviously, in my opinion, these two niggles were not enough to make me tear this thing to shreds. It has after all placed second in my top 3 of 2017. I wasn't even complaining when I mentioned the lack of dialogue because it's so well acted that the actions and expressions of the people involved were so impactful that the words would have undermined them. If you're planning on ever seeing Dunkirk, do it on the biggest screen with as many speakers as you can possibly get your hands on. The way all the different aspects of filmmaking are blended together is borderline perfection, and thank fuck it wasn't shot in first person because I'd be writing this from a PTSD clinic. For ages I was juggling Dunkirk and this movie between the middle and high tier of the podium, but after much contemplation and some alcohol I realised that, although on a technical level Dunkirk is the superior film, I simply couldn't place it above the Lego Batman movie. That's right people, a film produced by DC is Barely Breathing Review's 2017 Film of the Year. The same DC that was responsible for Jared Leto and Jesse Eisenberg almost desecrating the legacies of two iconic villains. The very DC who gave you this bag of bollocks, this mediocre trash, and this, well, we'll get back to this later on, spoiler alert I guess, managed to achieve the elated greatness that all filmmakers get themselves out of bed for. DC made one of the best movies of the year. DC, one of the best movies of the year. It's arguably the best Batman movie ever made, well, minus the obvious exception, of course. Everything you'd expect from a regular Batman movie, i.e. the weapons, the gadgets, the variety of vehicles, the action, the crippling upbringing issues, the leather, it's all there. The character himself goes through more personal development in this movie alone than he does in all Batman's on-screen appearances dating back to the 40s combined. To begin with, he is so void of his feelings that the computer he built has to teach him about emotions, and machines are giving him therapy. But in what felt like a seamless transition, by the end of the movie he had formed alliances, adopted a child, turned his enemies into friends, and brought a temporary peace to Gotham City. In between all that, there are hilarious moments and jokes at the expense of DC, which, to be fair, considering how they're doing in the live-action world, could and should have been much more savage. But then again, there's only so much self-harming that I can enjoy before my boner bursts a bloody blood vessel. The gimmick of everything being made of Lego is never exhausted. Fan service is very well catered for, Easter eggs are scattered everywhere but by no means distract you from the narrative. Cameo appearances from bad guys belonging to other universes you never imagined sharing a screen together are present and discreetly weaved within the story. MVP goes to Zach Galifianakis as the Joker. Of course, being rated as U by the BBFC, which basically means suitable for all, we were never going to see, for example, a Lego version of Heath Ledger's interpretation. What we did get to see was a different perspective of the Joker's psyche, which, considering the direction they took with this character, you could only get away with in this type of setting. Either way, it worked, and Jared Leto should be ashamed that Alan from The Hangover is a better Joker than he could ever be. It's obviously not without flaw. The songs do drag along for a bit, and the one played during the credits is fucking awful. Also, the other members of the Justice League were only featured briefly in the 1 3/4 hour duration, which is a shame considering how epic the lineup of bad guys was. It would have been a good opportunity for DC to brag to Marvel about how their flagship characters have taken on and defeated the creme de la creme of evil. But no, they had other characters fill in for them instead, which is fine, I guess. They were integral to the narrative, but I feel there was potential unexplored. With that said, at least the film didn't feel oversaturated at any point. It's hard to find balance between quantity and quality, but here it was nailed. So thank you, Lego Batman movie, for providing flotation to a drowning franchise. Wonder Woman was struggling to hold it all up on her own. There's only so much she can do when it comes to being the life support of DC's bloated husk. There's also no post-credit scene, which in itself automatically makes it one of my favourite superhero movies ever. Don't get me wrong, it's no Watchmen. Comparing those two would be like trying to find similarities between a baby shower and a gang rape. Well, on reflection, in the right pair of hands, those two occasions could appear to be fucking identical. Okay, time to bury this positivity with all the names of the people we lost in the film industry in 2017. Quickest in memoriam segment ever. Take note, Oscar. Critically, the Emoji Movie was about as well received as Gary Glitter in a Vietnamese courtroom, but from my perspective it's on the podium for a completely different reason. I went into this movie with my usual open mind, but thought deep down I'd end up walking away after credits bearing some kind of rage to trigger some kind of over-the-top yet frighteningly accurate rant about how shit it is, etc, etc, etc. However, I left the screening feeling absolutely fuck all. No rage, no anger, nothing. Reason being is that the Emoji Movie is too shallow, too substanceless, too generic, too lifeless, and way too fucking boring to inspire anything above meh. The fact it's basically an 86-minute commercial for the apps that paid to have their product weaved into the narrative isn't even my main gripe with the movie. It's overwhelmingly predictable. Every attempt at a joke fails dramatically. The animations look dated and cheap. The transition between scenes are the worst I've seen in years, thus making the editing look like shit, mainly because it is. The plot and characters are basically ripped off from Sausage Party and Wreck-It Ralph, both of which are far superior films, preventing the possibility to even get remotely interested in the blasé-fueled hopelessness that happens in front of you. So yeah, fuck this film. It's not worth sitting through this much banality to discover that the Emoji Movie ironically contains less emotion than an early morning hangover wank. Justice League was overall a fucking disaster, and to be honest there really isn't much more I can say on top of the wrathful dismantlement I gave it in my full review. But in short, it's a visual, tonal and anecdotal pixelated clusterfuck that's also the worst edited film I've seen in recent memory. Yes, there was post-production issues. Yes, the action was well choreographed. Yes, I've reused a fair chunk of my previous Justice League review slides in this paragraph. Don't mistake efficiency for sloth. And yes, Gal Gadot remains consistently good. But none of that even comes close to justifying the post-Vindaloo rectum ruining arsehole splitting colossal mega shit that DC took on its fanbase. Yet somehow there was a movie worse than this in 2017. The Mummy was the first step in Universal's Dark Universe franchise. Basically due to what I predict being a lack of creative urge on the part of Universal Pictures, they've decided to make reboots of their old monster movies. When I first heard about it, I was immediately dubious because when a company has a minimum effort, maximum reward mentality, it makes me want to vomit in the face of their own sterility. But I'd be unprofessional if I didn't at least have the decency to meet this halfway. So it was up to Universal Universal Pictures to show me that this whole Dark Universe thing isn't a lazy money grab at the expense of people's nostalgia. Predictably, the latest version of The Mummy is a full-bodied fuck you to anyone who went to watch this hoping that Tom Cruise et al. Wouldn't bend you over and fuck you beyond balls deep. It's shit. It's out of this world shit. Even if we ignored the fact it dragged the fun but flawed pre-boot, see what I did there, through an ocean of bull excrement, it's still apocalyptically atrocious. The title character looks like the Enchantress wrapped herself up in battle-tested toilet tissue. But that's okay, because she is just a plot device to make sure all the spotlights remain firmly on Tom, less ranged than the pensioner's cum-shot Cruise. Let's be honest, Tom Cruise always plays himself in every movie he does, but just on different levels of intensity, with the exception of Tropic Thunder, which coincidentally enough is the best performance of his career to date. Because he abandoned his usual repertoire of desperately trying to prove to the world he can still do the same physical shit in his 50s that he used to do much earlier on in his career. Unfortunately, The Mummy serves as a platform for Cruise to do just that. The entire time I was watching this trough of Brontosaurus shit, it by no means felt like a well-executed tribute to a late 90s monster movie, but 110 minutes of Tom Cruise nailing the title character deep within his shadow in the name of him silently screaming, "Look how fast I can still run, look at how high I can still jump, look at how topless I am, look at all of this awesome shit I can still do," as he performs the most unoriginal stunts you've ever seen. There's only one throwback to the 1999 version, but at that point its inclusion felt like more of an insult as opposed to a tipping of the hat. No one involved in this movie gave a fuck about the source material. They saw it as an effortless, careless and passionless way to make a lot of money. As you can see, it didn't make an overwhelming amount of cash. It's not exactly Black Panther, but nonetheless provided the biggest worldwide opening of Tom Cruise's career, but it deserves to suffer for its art. I actually saw this movie for free and I still felt ripped off. So I definitely don't envy the people who traded their well-earned money for having this movie do the equivalent of opening your cherished childhood toy chest, then taking a laxative-fueled shit all over the contents before fucking your mum in your crib until it pulls out to finish all over your gamepad, then asks you for fucking taxi money. Couldn't tell you how long this awards ceremony has gone on for at time of writing, but I can guarantee you its duration is dwarfed by the respective academies' drawn-out celebration of themselves. The film industry has done in 2017 what it's done every year previous and will most likely continue to do so forever. It will release genuinely brilliant pieces of art that will most likely end up being forgotten long before they should be, as well as littering the big screen with garbage that at the time of viewing made me feel like it was smashing my face off a bonnet, causing me to bleed all over my favourite shirt. And it's my car.